everyone. I'm Robin Mitchell Stroud. I'm the Billy Mentor for the University of Southern California, and I'm here with Grace Boyd, mentee and fellow. I guess your title is fellow, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Grace, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, okay. So I'm Grace Boyd. I'm a second year at USC studying religion, and I became a Billy Fellow as of August, I believe, of 2023. But I love learning about all things religion, and I also have recently found a love for geology and sciences, and especially the desert. So, yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. I know you just went on a sojourn where you
Hmm.
went into the desert. Well, we are here to talk about interfaith and interreligious things, right?
Yes.
So, Grace decided to let me interview them for your fall project. So, I have a list of questions, and hopefully, you're fine with me just jumping right in. And Grace doesn't know what questions that I've brought to the table.
I do not, yeah, but I'm
See,
ready.
okay, very good. Well, first of all, how would you break down interfaith or interreligious for someone who's never heard those terms?
I mean, I guess for starters, interfaith is just like any sort of coming together of people from different backgrounds and perspectives, specifically like their religious or spiritual or non religious or spiritual perspectives, and kind of like sharing and being in dialogue.
That's cool. Would you say that your understanding of interfaith is slightly different from, do you have your own personal spin on interfaith? Would you say it's slightly different from what most people think?
I think that like my perspective on interfaith and like religion in general has definitely broadened since I've been studying religion and doing interfaith work. But I think it goes beyond just it's like, oh, this Muslim is talking to this Christian. It's more like everyone has a different spiritual identity that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah,
And I think just the mingling of all of that is like what makes it interfaith. Um, so yeah,
that's cool. So since your time in the program, have you flipped your view on interfaith stuff at all?
I think I've definitely gained more of an awareness for the value of interfaith. I think before it was like, yeah, we're all just gonna get together and that's interfaith enough because we're all different. But I not only is the coming together of different spiritualities important, but I think I've also definitely seen more of the need for institutions coming together as well. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and we all know that's more of a challenge, right? Has being in the program changed any of your own beliefs or views?
I think maybe I've come to value listening more. I mean, I think it already was one of my values, but just using listening as an important response in interfaith interactions, because how to explain it? I don't know. It's more of a tool than I realized, or more of an asset than I realized in
Yeah.
interfaith interactions, because sometimes it's about just receiving what people are saying,
Yeah.
and that's a way to meet them where they are.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I would say that that is one of your spiritual gifts. Listening is one of your spiritual gifts. Grace is a great listener. So if you ever encounter Grace, just get into a conversation with them. That sounds so weird.
I mean, I think it's true.
It is true. Okay. How has, to this point anyway, how has being in the program prepped you for dealing with interfaith situations in the real world? Would you take that back to the listening or would you expand that?
um I mean, I think like the stuff that we talked about in the program about kind of managing conflicts and specific things that you can do to like, I guess, prepare for a conflict and like get through it. Um, so I think that's been helpful. But yes, also listening and just thinking about like ways to set the tone for interfaith like interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about is the program helping you handle like interfaith or interreligious? When I say interfaith, I'm including interreligious. Um, has the program or how has the program helping you handle interfaith topics on campus, maybe?
I think it's like cultivated a curiosity for like finding all. I think they even called it like an interfaith curiosity of like finding all sides to a story and like where the interfaith is in that, and just like deliberately going to different religious spaces just to like listen and hear what people are saying and like how they talk about what's going on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to change this up just a little bit. You're an artist.
Yes.
You are an artist who got to share your cats with people at our training at the Interfaith Summit, which was great. So, if you had to draw what interfaith means, what would that look like? Would it look like your cats?
Ooh.
What?
I probably would use cats as subjects just because I love cats and I also like kind of use them as caricatures for like emotions, I think. Um so if I were to draw like a cat interfaith drawing, I think there would just be like a variety of like expressions on the cats, but also kind of like a meeting of the minds, I guess. So maybe
Mm.
like cats in like a circle kind of communing together with like a sphere of knowledge in between them that they're all connected
Aw,
to.
that's awesome. I was just about to ask you, like, if you were going to create a symbol or a mascot for the program,
Ooh.
what would it be and why? And you sort of are like, you just sort of did that.
I mean, I don't know if like I don't know. I wonder if they would let me use cats as like a symbol because I mean, on the one hand, it's like, yeah, I love cats, but on the other hand, I can see people being like, okay, how is that relevant? Where are the cats?
What?
I don't know. I
Gra-
would appreciate a cat logo.
Grace is spirit animal.
Exactly.
Do you I kind of know this a little bit, but how do you plan to use your art to push forward interfaith conversations?
Oh, okay, okay. So, this kind of ties into my project idea for spring semester, but
Mm,
I want to set up like a listening stand. Um, and for context, there's a lot of tables on campus in this particular area of people like doing fundraisers, selling stuff. And at times it can be kind of overwhelming walking through there when like there's people yelling at you to buy stuff on all sides.
mhm.
So I think it'd be really refreshing to see like a space where people can just come and talk and be listened to. Um,
Yeah.
and as for my art, I would like to draw these like cool, eye-catching cat posters that are kind of like um, I don't know, kind of like silly, kind of lighthearted, but just like
To
I
draw
don't know.
people in?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
friendly.
Well, and for our listeners, Truesdale is like a main thoroughfare of campus. And so there are lots of people walking up and down Truesdale. There are lots of people with tables, either selling things like this morning. I ran into Shane, who's one of the students that hangs out at the University Religious Center on campus. And he and his, um, let's see, what is one of his classes. Anyway, they were selling cold pressed coffee. Oh, it's entrepreneurship class. Thank you. There's the word. Yeah. So, like, there were just a lot of tables set up fundraising for classes or things. And so it does get really noisy. And so to have a booth that's just there to be like, hey, come, let us listen, like, just let's talk and listen. And the cats would be an amazing way of bringing people over.
Mhm.
We need to figure out how to we need to put a cat on the front of the tile for this little interview.
Oh my
That would be
gosh.
great. That's what we should do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to switch it up a little bit again. Okay. I'm going to go back a little bit to the bridge building and the collaboration. Can you share an example where building bridges has worked for creating good interfaith conversations um, around our neck of the woods? Could be a project too, but just some sort of a program, event, activity, project, whatever you would like to talk about.
Mm. Um, well, I am one of the co-presidents of the Interfaith Council on campus, and every week on Wednesday evening we meet and just like discuss um, some topic related to like religion or philosophy. And it's always nice because we have like a broad range of students and they all bring their perspectives, and like we kind of look at the topic from all these different like angles.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, like this week we talked about mortality and like how awareness of mortality changes how we live. Um, and one of the grad students who's originally from India was talking about how like in India death is just kind of like part of everyday life, and it's very visible, and it's just like natural, I guess. Whereas I know like some of the other students who were like from the area or from the US were talking about how they feel like death is like really kind of pushed out of sight in everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
um, so yeah, I think that was just a really cool conversation and like broadened my own perspective on mortality.
For sure. Are you all doing I think you have, don't you have something coming up too where you're doing that work?
Yes, we are doing an interfaith dinner. I think it's
It's later this
maybe
month, right?
yeah, I think it's the week after Thanksgiving, but we're going to
Okay.
be talking about religion and mental health, and we have these panelists from different religious backgrounds and like experience in mental health to just talk about it. I think it'll be really cool.
And who all is invited to attend that? Whomever?
Anyone and everyone. We want to like see as many people as possible and just like have dialogues with students and faculty. So, yeah, I think it'll be really cool.
Is this the kind of program, or I guess I could broaden it, how do you see yourself using what you're learning in Billy for interfaith bridge building in the future?
Ooh.
I know that's a big question. You don't have to like answer, like it doesn't have to be a dissertation. Just a paper.
Okay, so how do I see myself using the fellowship knowledge in my lifetime and the whole thing?
Well, it could be if you want to bracket it to your time on campus, that's okay. Or you could go bigger.
Okay,
Yep,
okay.
either way.
Maybe I'll start with campus. I think that like being in the fellowship has like inspired me to plan more events that like more intentionally bring different groups together. Um, so like I don't know, in the past our interfaith group has been mostly focused on those like weekly discussion groups, which I think are good because they build personal connections, but
Hmm.
also like I think now that like it's good to balance that with like more intentional events, like oh let's collab with like the Jewish student group or like the Baha'i student group,
Hmm.
um, just to like really, I don't know, kind of confront different perspectives, or not confront but like dialogue with them, I guess.
Yeah. I knew exactly what you meant by that. And speaking of that dialoguing, does Billy push you to share your own story more openly as part of that dialoguing process?
You know, I think we did talk about like what our story is and how we kind of tell that to the world as interfaith leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that has made me more aware of like my background and what I bring to like interfaith spaces. Um, and I think I've come to like recognize like kind of that as like an asset because I am a queer person who came from like a Protestant Christian denomination called Seventh Day Adventism, which I still like value, but now I'm like exploring other religious practices. Um, so I feel like my background is kind of defined by like fluidity and these like almost dichotomies of like, oh, queer, but also like in religious culture and like, I don't
Hmm.
know, also studying religion. So yeah, I think it's being in the fellowship has helped me like see my identity more.
Thank you. That's great. And I was going to ask you about that. So I'm glad that you proactively addressed that for me. Okay. I've got just a few more questions because I'm trying to keep this to 20 minutes
Okay.
because I want people to listen. So here's just a funny question. At an interfaith event, have you ever mixed up religious symbols by mistake?
Oh, um, I feel like I need to like get better at recognizing all the different symbols. Um, I
I know.
always forget what the Scientology symbol looks like because it is really similar to a cross, but like it's a little different. So I think maybe the Scientology cross.
We have a great, like for the Office of Religious and Spiritual Life at USC, we've got a great fight on symbol. It looks like a peace sign.
Hmm.
And within that outline of a peace, like two fingers, a hand shooting a peace sign, we have all of these different religious symbols within the peace symbol. And sometimes I think, I wonder if we ever gave those to like our religious affiliates and said, how many can you name? How many different symbols could we name? That could be kind of a fun little, I don't know, icebreaker sometime.
I definitely cannot name all of them. I
I
could
don't think I could.
maybe I could get like 20% of those symbols correct.
Oh, I bet you
Well,
could get more.
actually, yeah, there's some like I don't know, some random ones like question mark, male symbol, female symbol. It's like, all right, I guess I can recognize those.
Though, yes, those would be ones that are more recognizable. Okay, looking ahead, two more questions for you.
Okay.
What do you see as the biggest hurdles in interfaith bridge building, and how is Billy kind of getting you ready to, I don't know, face them, encounter them? What do you think?
I I mean
Billy's,
something that's like already kind of a central concern to me is helping people understand each other.
yeah,
Um, and I think a big hurdle is like other people recognizing the need to like listen to each other because I mean at least like on campus recently I've noticed like I don't know there's a rise in like anti-Semitism and Islamophobia and like both
mm-hmm,
sides are getting hurt, but it seems like there's a lack of seeing both sides pain, and I
mm-hmm,
think that just is like heartbreaking.
mm-hmm,
So I think like being in the Billy Fellowship, and kind of getting like that constant support of like go out and like connect the community. You can do it. We're gonna give you this grant and like do a project. I think that is like kind of encouraging because like okay, there are other people who are like concerned with this, and want to make connections. So yeah.
yeah. And bridge building work is not easy work,
Hmm.
as we both know. Well, speaking of that, I think that dovetails beautifully with my last question, which is, what is your big hope for how our community on campus tackles these kinds of challenges?
I hope that like there will be kind of um, like a coming together. I know that sounds like generic, but kind of like maybe the passion and the range of emotions on both sides will hopefully like sometime be turned away from each other and like kind of united to form a community of people that are there for each other and like acknowledge each other's grief, um, and can become like sort of stronger from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful hope. That's my hope as well. Well, Grace Boyd, thank you very much for answering your mentor's questions.
Yeah, thanks for the interview.
And I hope for anyone listening that you're able to like grab some little nuggets out of this interview. And if anyone wanted to reach out to you, Grace, how could they find you?
Oh, my email is boydg at usc.edu. So feel free to send me an email, and I'll try to get back to you in a semi-timely manner. But yeah,
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you.
thank
Signing
you.
off.